Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you finished your coursework now on to finals week. Here's how to have a successful finals week. Basically, all you have to do is write your final paper. Let me just give you a few parameters for that. It's 10 to 15 pages, no less than 10, no more than 15. You have to have 5 references. 3 of those references can be from your in class course materials, and then 2 can need to be from outside course materials. A reference is something with footnotes, except for Wikipedia. Wikipedia doesn't quite count as a reference because it's not refereed in the same way that other books and articles are that have footnotes. So, yeah, 5 sources, 3 common mistakes that you want to try to avoid for this paper. One is, as you've kind of articulated your conflict, don't spend too much time on the history and the events. Certainly don't take up more than like a third or a half of your paper at the most. You'll want to focus on, instead of doing that, that's the temptation, is just to narrate this long conflict and then at the very end bring in the peacemaking principles or practices that you are kind of going to apply to this conflict. What you want to do actually is you want to narrate the conflict in a succinct manner, so that I can understand it and your reader can understand it, and then you want to then begin to take your peacemaking practices and principles and articulate them in application to your conflict, which leads to the second most common mistake. Is people just talk about the principle or the practice in a way that anyone, actually, not just me, but anyone could read the book and get it, right? They get the principle because it's stated and defined and articulated in the book, or books that you're referencing. What I want you to do actually is take that practice, apply it to your conflict, and is there a place where that practice is used or has been used before? What's the success of that? What's the failures in that? Add some texture to the practice that you see in real life. So you might have to do a little research. Where has this been practiced? Where has it been tried? Has it been proven to work? Or is there something that's missing still? So you'll want to do that. The second thing is, maybe it's a conflict that people haven't tried a particular practice, and you want to apply that because you see something there. And so what you'll need to do, is to kind of imagine and create something like a case or a scenario where you articulate how you see this principle working for this particular conflict. So in each case, I want you to add texture to it. And the third common mistake, so that's the second common mistake, is just to articulate the principles and maybe the definitions, and that's it. I want you to go deeper than that. I want you to add texture to that. And one of the ways to do that is to provide some examples of how it's worked or how it hasn't worked, or you can find other principles that kind of relate to it and bring those in. So that is the second thing. The third most common mistake is that people just talk about the practices and they don't ever bring in the scriptures that are related to those practices. And so you'll want to, again, add some texture by talking about how these particular practices are, there's scripture that can kind of support them, add weight to them, those kinds of things. So yeah, don't neglect the scriptures in your articulation of the peacemaking practices that you're suggesting. The other thing is, in this paper, I'd like for you to, if it's obvious to take a position, then take a position and defend it. If it's not quite as obvious, then maybe you need to articulate both sides and say, hey, this is a position if I were going to advocate for this. Like, say, the Israel-Palestine conflict. This is a position if I was going to advocate for Israel in this situation. This is a position if I was going to advocate for Palestine in this situation. So I want you to take a side. Okay, so those are the 3 most common mistakes. One is taking too much time on the history and the events that created the conflict as you narrate it. The second is to just talk about the principles and their definitions and not have texture and meaning behind it. and go in a little deeper. The third is to not have any scriptural references in your paper that kind of support and again add texture to this conflict that you're trying to bring peacemaking to it. And then the other thing that I want to make sure that you know is that as soon as you get exhausted and tired and you're almost finished, edit it one more time. Edit it for grammar, edit it for sentence structure, coherence, those kinds of things, just to make sure that it's tightly argued. It's one of the most common feedback that I give, both on your, not just yours, but on most midterm essays and most final papers, is and just needed one more edit to reduce some of the grammatical mistakes. If you do all those things, then you'll do great on the paper. The other thing that I want to say is this is not just an academic exercise, but a spiritual exercise. So I'm praying for you as you kind of push through this finals week. Make sure that you kind of do this assignment in prayerful reflection. There's a lot at stake in some of these conflicts, and so we need more people who are both equipped to apply the peacemaking principles and practices, but also to be tenderheartedly devoted to Christ in these situations. And so, just make sure or try to do your best to bring Christ into the center of even you writing this paper. The other thing that I want to say in light of that is that just do the best that you can do with what God has given to you. Some of you have special circumstances that may prevent you from even doing A work, and the best that you can do is B work. That's totally fine. I don't judge you as a person by your grades. I have to judge the papers because that's what I do as a professor, but I don't judge you as a person by the grades. Everybody has a story, and I've been teaching for long enough now to know that paper doesn't tell the whole story. And so do the best with what God has given to you. Don't panic if some circumstances come up. Just let me know what's happening. That's the one thing. Just let me know what's happening, and I'll try to do my best to help you all. Okay? I hope you have a great week. Thanks for a great class so far. I'm not available on Tuesday because I'll be traveling. My position with Crew and with Athletes in Action with the Stanford football team is taking me to Hawaii for the Hawaii-Stanford football game, where I will do the chapel for the Stanford football team. So I'll be traveling to Hawaii that day. I'll be available on Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday, I'm kind of hit or miss because that's chapel day and game day. So, just feel free to text me. Just remember, 3 hours earlier than Pacific time when I'm in Hawaii. So, just take that into account if you're on the East Coast especially. Okay? Again, thanks for a great class. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, at least through all of your writings, and I hope that our paths intersect in person at some point.